It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses.
Hit it.
To infinity and beyond!
Get off, Napoleon. Make yourself a dang quesadilla.
I know Kung Fu.
This is one doodle that can't be undid, Holmes Gillett.
And my axe.
This should be open because it's civil rights. This is the 90s.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
1.21 gigawatts!
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear.
Gucci.
Welcome to the KendallCast Movie Roundtable. I'm your host, Kendall. With me, as always, is Ian.
Hey, guys.
And Nick.
Feels weird that Jeff's not here to be, before me.
Yes, Jeff is out on assignment. He's watching all of the movies that exist, and he's going to let us know what movie we should watch. It isn't Jeff's pick next, is it?
It's mine.
Okay.
It usually goes around the circle, the way that we sit, so it's
the way that we sit, yeah.
we probably should have had Jeff write something for us, but I'm not sure that we did.
Well, no, because it's Ian's. If it's Ian's pick, then we don't.
Well, no, I meant for this movie.
Oh, for his take on it? Well, whatever.
At least if he liked it or not. But we didn't ask.
I'm sure that he did not watch it.
That's probably
It
true.
was 11 hours long.
But the movie's not quite 11 hours. Look, I could have made you watch Wyatt Earp, which is something like 3.5 hours.
So we're talking about Tombstone, a movie with lots of white dudes with mustaches.
Lots of mustaches.
So Nick, why did you pick this movie?
Pretty much exclusively. I had never seen it. I'd seen a couple YouTube clips of the I'm Your Huckleberry thing and some of the Doc Holliday scenes, and that's basically the entire reason. I didn't have a better reason than that.
Mm-hmm. I first of all, I was like, oh my god, 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'm not in the mood to watch a movie. But I can understand why this movie is some people's whole personality. I can understand how this could be someone's favorite movie. And I think there were elements of it that were really good. There's something about certain 90s movies where they'll take, and I feel bad because I feel like there are a million examples of this and I can only think of Independence Day, but take sort of a style of film that's a little bit of a throwback, to the 70s or the 50s or whatever, and try to make kind of the epitome of that. And there's something about the 90s, like optimism, thinking that we all thought it was the peak of civilization, and maybe it was, and also being sort of still not that far removed from the films of that era of the 70s or whatever, that it it kind of achieves that goal, and I like it when it does that. So I like this. My biggest issue was the issue that I have with a lot of. Well, I think I had this issue with High Noon, but although I had a lot of other issues with High Noon, the cast all dressed the same, and they all had the same facial hair, and they were all white dudes, and the women, there were two brown-haired women, and I didn't realize that they were two different people until at least 2 hours into the movie, or at least an hour and a half into the movie.
All white people look the same.
A little bit. I mean, I think that
all the wives were blonde and wearing outfits that would change in scenes, which is reasonable, but they were hard to tell apart sometimes.
Well, and there were 75 characters in this movie. There were a lot of. I mean, there's a reason that in comic books you have superheroes that wear very distinct costumes, and I think that having, and I mean, there were non-white people that existed in the Old West, and maybe giving some of them a role would have helped, but it is what it is. I thought Val Kilmer did a really, really good job. That and the dialogue, very quotable. I have not yet begun to defile myself. You know, and you know, and everything, that scene where they're going back and forth with the Latin was real good, except for I wish that somebody would have. I knew In Vino Veritas. Did you guys, Ian? You probably knew what everything that they said in that scene, right?
No, but so I'm gonna disagree with like almost everything that you just said. And
well, let him finish saying it, and then he can get.
Okay.
No. You can go ahead. I think I said
all right.
that was a good opening piece.
So a lot of the things that you said you specifically liked, I specifically did not like. Like the Latin scene kind of epitomizes what I'm talking about. Not only that, but like they're quoting Revelation, you know, with the referencing the four horsemen, you know,
Mhm.
and there was a pale horse, and the one who sat on him was death. This to me like really shows how the movie like was kind of trying to be edgy. Like they wanted to have like edgy, cool villains who spoke Latin and quoted scripture, and it ended up just kind of being cringy. I feel like the movie was like way over violent for what it needed to do, and especially like especially the very first scene, and then like at the end, how it just kept dragging on, like with more violent montages. Like I don't see the point. To me, like a western, like if you watch a lot of good westerns, and of course I'm gonna say High Noon is a good western, but also like westerns like Shane, is like a classic example, or The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, or uh, a lot of these westerns have like a theme, a very like anti-violent theme, where you know you have like a reluctant gunfighter who you know ends up being forced into a violent conflict because he has no other choice. And while I feel like Wyatt Earp like pay lip service to like we don't want to provoke these guys and get involved, the movie very much went against that. It
Mhm.
was like so let's like make these villains so bad that like so we can justify like this vengeance fueled, you know, rampage that we're going to force Wyatt Earp to go into. Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of like the thrust of my problem with it. Like it felt like there's a bunch of 90s movies that are kind of like this, like Boondock Saints. This is the Boondock Saints of western movies, where we're like gonna kind of glorify violence and like edgy villains and stuff. um or it's also reminded me kind of like Seven, or even Face Off. Like Face Off, I felt like had some of the same thematic problems. Like, oh, we just want everyone to be cool and edgy, but actually, it's like super cringe.
All right. Now, I kind of think that some of this is fairly accurate with what you're saying, with at least how the movie depicted it. But we have to remember that this is a movie about real people and things that actually happened. So I'm going to get all weirdly focused on historical stuff here,
Okay,
as apparently is my role.
They didn't happen, but sure, go into it.
So some things happened, some things didn't. There are certain things that Tombstone completely changed just to make it a better story and move things in. I mean, it looks like everything happens in the course of a week in this story, but it really doesn't. For example, the Earps move in 2 years before the OK Corral happens. They were always sheriffs. Virgil was the sheriff or the marshal in town before they ever arrive. So the whole trying to decline the call of adventure trope never happens in reality. There's more Earps. There's an argument, and depending on who's telling the story, whether the Earps are also a criminal gang that are actually trying to cause a bunch of other problems, and it's just just a conflict between the Earps trying to rustle the Cowboys. The Cowboys are never an organized gang, which bothered me because I was pretty sure there wasn't a gang called the Cowboys because I watched History Channel before it was garbage. And so it's just a completely disorganized group of people, no red sashes or anything like it is in the movie. They're just actual cowboys that are roaming into town. A lot of the people do exist, and I think that's why Kendall's so confused, is because they tried to make as many of the actors portray real people as possible. That said, there's 2 Earps, I think, in the story that don't even appear. There's one that isn't a gunfighter, who is only a bartender and declines all gunfighting. Gets left back at their bar the whole time. And there's another one, I think, Warren Earp, that goes on the Vengeance ride. And it's worth mentioning that, especially the ride at the end where they're just gunning people down left and right. Ian complained that went on way too long, and I think he has a point, because they murdered probably like 20 people in various scenes, just endlessly shooting people down. They killed 4 people during that entire thing. And all of them it was like the Clan, pretty much like the Clanton leaders and Curly Bill, and that was about it. It was very overtold story that kind of got away from them when they were shooting this, and they just wanted to up the body count. Let's see other things.
Not to
I
mention,
think that's all the real historical.
Yeah.
The theater they were at the beginning wasn't built till after. That's pretty much it. That's most of what.
Okay, I just want to jump in that I actually agree with everything that Ian said. I came into this, I was like, I have a lot of problems with this movie, and I wanted to make sure that I said the good parts. Like,
okay,
for example, the Latin scene. I like that scene, but then I felt like the Ringo character kind of went nowhere. And there were just a lot of like plot things that made me, I mean, maybe if I watched it a second time, I would have followed it better, but like, I didn't understand, Wyatt literally saves the leader of the Cowboys from being, hanged in the middle of the street.
Curly Bill.
Is that Curly Bill? That's Curly Bill?
Curly Bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought Bill Paxton was Curly Bill, but that's okay.
Bill Paxton,
so that makes okay. So that's Curly Bill, and is Ringo the guy that they call Ringo?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So he literally saves Curly Bill and pulls a gun on the drunk guy that that wants to do it, and then that leads to when things escalate and the people get shot and stuff. Like, then Curly Bill is mad at him and is best buds with the drunk guy that wanted to kill him, and I didn't quite understand that turn until like later, I guess. I think I also didn't realize that the Cowboys were the ones that were already established in the town. I thought that both of them both Wyatt and his people and the Cowboys rode into the town kind of at the same time, but I was wrong about that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when Earp comes into town, they meet that one guy who's like the county sheriff,
the mayor, and the
another
sheriff. Mayor.
Another historical error, because it wasn't in that county, it was another county. It doesn't, and Wyatt Earp had already been like an undersheriff for the other county, so like that whole position didn't exist until later. That guy does become the county sheriff, but not until way after this.
But is he the leader of the anti-Chinese League?
He is, which I did notice. It was, I mean, time appropriate.
Yeah, so he comes in, he meets that guy, and then he talks to the next person, and they say, "Yeah, but the real law around here is the Cowboys."
Okay.
So it's like established.
Which also, that's a bad. If that's a fictional group, that's a bad name.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's completely.
They could have come up with a better name, but
also,
they were like,
there are actual cowboys around. Why?
Right.
Why are the gang the Cowboys?
They are the Cowboys. Yeah.
Yeah, there are actual cowboys like the people that wrangle cattle. And then also like cowboys and Indians, like that's like a generic term for people who are, causing trouble in the towns or whatever. So it's like, it's too much the same. So I probably, when I saw that scene and I was thinking the real law is the Cowboys, meaning like the real law is this disorganized group of chaotic
which
roughhousers
historically
or
is
whatever.
correct because the Cowboys weren't a real gang. Just a bunch of random people who came and went.
But it just and then I also very strongly agree with Ian about the end of the movie violence, because I actually really like the trope of someone who is just continually refusing violence, and then very reluctantly at the end his hand is forced. I like
Right.
that. I like that trope. I kind of wish, like, the way that it was handled with that it did get hyper violent toward the end. I kind of wish that, like, maybe if his wife had if his wife had been like, you've taken this too far, or if somebody had said like, you've taken this too far, this has gone far enough, you don't need to do this, you can walk away, something like that. But that,
right, the conspicuous absence of any such scene or consequence, like, reinforces that the movie, like, wanted you to enjoy it.
Right.
Like it glorified the violence. It didn't want to put a stop to it. And even like after Doc Holliday kills Ringo, like, I'm like, oh, it's finally over. But then he says, no, let's finish it. And then there's another violence montage. Like
yeah,
the movie's already at 2 hours. Why are we extending it to 2 hours 10 just for another pointless, gunfight montage?
Yeah, I mean,
because they had two things that they had to work in. They had to work in the OK Corral and the famous revenge ride, or the vengeance ride, or whatever it is.
And
they spent too much time working on random.
They weren't even really done that well. Like as far as the first violence montage, it ends up with that shootout with Curly Bill and his gang in the river, and then Kurt Russell has that really cringy scene where he's like, no, and he like walks out of the water and he's shooting everyone standing.
I'll be honest, I kind of like that.
I love that scene. I will say that when this and this is a very 90s thing too, when you're not quite sure whether they're dialing it up because it's cheesy, or whether they're trying to be, or whether it's just over the top and they don't realize the there's no hint of irony there. Like there are a handful of scenes like that I really like. But you're right that sequence went on too long, and that there was no punishment for the violence. And then I will also say I really hated the love story, such as it was, between Wyatt and the actress. First of all, I thought the actress was also the wife of the sheriff, because they both are generic women with like 3 lines dating each, and they both were constantly making eyes at Wyatt. So
yeah, so it's Josephine, played by Dana Delaney.
And they just didn't
Wait,
have.
Are you telling me that Josephine was not dating the sheriff? Because if so, then I completely missed that those were two different characters.
What? Yeah, no, Josephine.
Oh, then I completely got that wrong.
Josephine was the actress who rode into town with her.
Yeah, I totally still thought those were two characters, the same character.
He was her actor, the actor that she worked with.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, but I thought she was dating the sheriff.
No.
Right, yeah. The sheriff also had a wife who also, I think, had at least one scene where she talked about being into Wyatt. So,
okay, yeah, I definitely thought those were the same characters, just wearing like different hairstyles or something.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, they were.
All right, yeah, okay.
And like Wyatt has this wife that he's just constantly neglecting, and she's sick. I guess it was a drug problem, because at the very end they say she died of a drug overdose.
I mean, laudanum is an incredibly addictive painkiller. It's basically the scourge of the end of the Civil War.
I mean, that's fine. There's a story there, but they didn't tell it. Like,
yeah, they spent a lot of time on that, and then didn't really they instead decided to like play it up and then to make a big deal out of like the ending, and then like the whole middle was just weird because of it. I feel like if they were looking to cut down on time, they could have cut a lot of the middle of that story out, and it still would have landed almost the same.
I think
everything after the horse ride, I think, would have been fine.
I think that the movie. I mean, and this isn't what happened. I guess that's the problem with telling true stories is to some extent you have to follow like what happened. But I mean, if they took a bunch of liberties elsewhere, I mean, you could have just had him like. I think this movie would have been much stronger if the ending. And I don't usually say this. Usually, I'm all for the happy endings. But I think that if Wyatt had gotten himself killed at the end, that would have shown that message that violence is bad. That no matter what, and that and just the I don't know, just the final scene of him. Oh, we're gonna get room service. Like it just didn't. Yeah. It felt like it was. I mean, that and the horseback riding scene both felt like they were in a different movie.
Yeah. She played it as like, so Josephine came across as like kind of like emancipated. She like cares about fun and nothing else, and her family's rich, and that also just kind of overshot the mark for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that.
She says my family's
rich. They could have made either of those movies, but they put them into one movie.
Yeah. I mean, but I will say, but Val Kilmer was great. Like Val Kilmer's performance was amazing. Like I said,
the Doc Holliday stuff is why I picked the movie, because when I saw those scenes on YouTube, I was like, I want to see this.
And I think there was something too. Like there were a number of individual scenes that were just terrific. Yeah, I mean, all the stuff with Val Kilmer was great. When Wyatt walks in and he says, "You're sitting in my chair," all the different times where they got like a one up on somebody that's pulling a gun on them, like that was great. Even like the scene when everybody's got their guns pulled out and he says, I think you're 3 sheets to the wind, and you probably can't. You're probably seeing double, and he's like, well, good thing I got 2 guns, one for each of you. Like,
yeah, that was good.
Stuff like that was just terrific. Like there was so much that was just really excellent, and that's why I'm saying, like, I can see how, how some people this would be like an all-time classic for them. It just ultimately is flawed, and the fact that you're right, like the fact that it's 2 hours and 15 minutes means that it was bloated in a way that they could have tightened it up. They could have cut some scenes, and then it would have really been something special.
I feel like this is your favorite movie if your second favorite movie is V for Vendetta. Like like people idolize the whole Guy Fawkes thing too, right? Like, I don't know. It's fine. There are some good one-liners. I'll give you that.
Yeah. I feel like this is your favorite as an movie. Example of like a more modern Western. I think it is fun. It is slow for I think how much fun it delivers, and it's kind of weird because it switches between the social witty fun and then just the not I mean, the gunfights are all right. They're not full on old school clutching your gut and falling over for the most part, although that does happen a couple times.
Right, but, it was not Tarantino.
They are more modern.
It was not Tarantino.
Right.
Like, because you said Reservoir Dogs is Tarantino, isn't it?
Yes.
I didn't say Reservoir Dogs.
Ian did.
Oh,
didn't
Ian
he?
did. Okay, yeah.
Compared to and which I think Tarantino has like Tarantino films are an over the top violence that is almost cartoonish in a way that like that is done purely for entertainment and doesn't necessarily glorify violence. This just kind of made it seem like, the guy did the right thing by shooting everybody. And I mean, I guess like he said, if the cowboys are done. If I see a red flag, I'm gonna shoot them. Like any of those people could have given up their red flags.
I mean, his 3 helpers were the ones who dropped their sashes. Remember,
right?
Like when they started shooting at the women. Yeah. So like,
I didn't compare it to Reservoir Dogs though. I compared it to Boondock Saints, which is very much about like, it's very much like, oh, we're gonna glorify vigilante violence.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say Boondock Saints is a way better comparison than Reservoir Dogs.
Isn't Boondock Saints also Tarantino?
No.
Oh, it's not.
Troy
okay.
Duffy.
Well, Boondock Saints has the guy from Walking Dead, and this movie also has the guy from Walking Dead.
Boondock Saints is directed by Troy Duffy.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen either. I haven't seen Boondock Saints or Reservoir Dogs because I heard Reservoir Dogs was worse than Pulp Fiction, and I didn't like Pulp Fiction. So, but yeah, Boondock Saints is Norman Reedus, and then this had what's his name that played Norman Reedus's brother in Walking Dead.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, that's that guy. It had a number of hey, that's that guy.
Yeah, there are the cast is pretty impressive. It's got a lot of stars in it, and I think a lot of the side characters are stars in makeup that you don't really recognize.
Yeah, like I didn't notice Charlton Heston, but Charlton Heston is in this movie. He's kind of like old guy with hat and mustache. But
I didn't catch. I mean, I saw that he was in the credits. Also, the credits, this bugged me a lot too, because like I was kind of confused about the people, but like it did like a thing where it shows the people's faces, and then it was also doing the actors, and the people that it showed did not line up. Like it showed Val Kilmer. It did a close up on Val Kilmer, and it said Bill Paxton. And
yeah. Like I didn't realize that Billy Bob Thornton was in this, or Billy Zane, or
so what was with like the historical biography outro, like, and so went on to Sam Elliott is narrating the end, but like,
well, you have to remember this is the 90s. We have to tell everyone what happened to everyone.
Also, there's another. Isn't there a different narrator at the beginning, or is that also Sam Elliott at the beginning?
Is there a narrator at the beginning?
Yeah, because it talks about
it might be Sam Elliott. I don't remember.
It talks about Doc Holliday going out west for his tuberculosis and the cowboy gang and everything.
With like the old timey video reel of them going to the new
black and white.
Was that? I might have been Sam Elliott at the beginning too, but there was a narrator at the beginning.
If you can have Sam Elliott read some dialogue, you have Sam Elliott read the dialogue.
Yeah, but still, it's kind of weird that like. You're now used to him being Virgil. Now Virgil has left and he's back to narrating, but like not as Virgil. Like he mentioned Virgil in the third person during his outro narration.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will say like a few just like I just want to acknowledge, like I mean, I legitimately, like, you guys are making fun of me for all the white people look the same, but like, they have an anti-Chinese league, but there's like one frame where there's a guy in a stereotypical Chinese looking hat. Like there's not like Chinese characters in it. There's the only time you see Mexicans is for them to get gunned down.
There's the one cowboy that's like Spanish or something like that, doesn't speak Spanish or something like that.
His kind of weird. Well, he's just, I think the idea is that he's dumb. But he doesn't. Yeah, his Spanish is worse.
It doesn't last very long.
But he's like, so you even establish him as a character and then don't use him for the rest of the film. Like they it's like they go out of their way to not have representation in this movie, which is, I mean, I don't want to like dwell on it too much because it was the 90s and that's it is what it is. But I do want to acknowledge that like the movie literally would have been better if it had a more diverse cast.
Yeah,
I think
that said, all the famous people are dead white guys. So
right, well,
all the people they're trying to match from the photos are the white guys.
But like, tell a better
I think this
story.
is another problem when you're trying to match historical accounts and then like. The only people anybody wrote down were like the famous dead white guys.
Right. Versus... Well, it's like I brought up Shogun in the last one, But like I was complaining that Shogun to some people that Shogun, the main character and it's a white dude, even though it's about feudal Japan. And they were like, oh, well, that's because it's based on this guy's diaries. It's like, you don't think the Japanese people wrote diaries too? Like, why do we have to tell this guy's story? Yeah, I understand. And I mean, I understand, but I just like, it would have been a better story if they had followed up on some of those minority characters that they even or had done more with the women, done more with the like, because there were these characters that were clearly like 3 feet off screen that I don't know. I mean, you're right, there were already 700 characters in the movie, but he doesn't need. Bill Paxton didn't need to be in the movie, period. Like, they could have combined Twirly Bill or whatever you said his name was and Ringo probably.
I mean, they're two fairly famous people, so that seems like if you're making a Western, you could have done that. If you're making a movie about the OK Corral, that seems like a bad move.
Well, you said that they already cut out 6 of his other brothers.
They cut out Earps. They cut out people on the Earp side. They didn't cut out the bad guys that they were going to kill. Was the main thing. Yeah, so they made it look like Wyatt had less help. I also felt like Ringo was just, they set him up to be such a great character in those first 2 scenes where like he's playing it cool, and then you find out that he also speaks Spanish. Like that was really really clever. And then the scene where they're speaking Latin back and forth, that was like, this guy is a really smart guy. And then for the rest of the movie, he's just drunk. Yeah.
Like,
I have bad news for you, Kendall. Historically, Doc does not kill Ringo. Ringo probably goes off and commits suicide. And that whole last scene where they meet in the sanatorium doesn't happen.
I really don't care about what happened in real life. There are few things. There are historically significant events that matter. But for the purposes of this movie, there are few things that I care less about than historical accuracy.
People have heard about the shootout, the famous gunfight at the OK Corral, right? And it's like in our cultural,
But that's like a super minor scene in this movie.
Right. So then they
and it
all
happens
this
halfway
stuff around
through.
it.
So
It was at 1 hour 10. I actually wrote it down.
Yeah. So it's the dramatic climax. It's the turning point, admittedly, but like if you're telling a story around it, and there's a bunch of things that they changed historically anyway, then you could also change other things to make it better.
Right. Well, that said, there was another movie that came out essentially at the same time, directed by Kevin Costner, who attempted to ruin this movie by buying up every costume in Hollywood so that they couldn't shoot this movie. Called Wyatt
buy
Earp,
up all the
they
fake
attempt to tell mostly
mustaches?
the same stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they had to make their own mustaches. I don't.
Because Kevin Costner's mustache.
I haven't actually seen a picture of him. Let me pull this.
Or not
up.
Kevin Costner. Sorry. Who played Wyatt? Crap.
Oh God, I'm drawing a blank. Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell's mustache. Kurt Russell's mustache was the worst prop in the whole movie.
Hilariously, if you
real.
look at the old picture of Wyatt Earp, his mustache is like half the size that he had historically.
Apparently, that's Kurt Russell actually grew that mustache.
It's a real mustache?
Real.
Okay.
Yeah, it's his. Yep.
That's awesome.
It's impressive.
Well, okay. I'll give him the credit for that, I guess. It looked like it was going to fall off in a couple of scenes, but if you say so.
Maybe he had extensions on it or something.
But there were so many great moments too. Like I love that when they're leaving town and he says, this is over, but then he's standing behind him with the gun when they come after him. Like I really loved that sort of, I'm going to give you guys every chance to avoid the wrath, avoid.
I think it's worth pointing out that I think both my and Kendall's favorite scenes, for the most part, occur around the gunfights. The shootings themselves are kind of like not the focus of our enjoyment.
Mhm.
It's definitely the tension and the little dialogue with each other. The "I'll be your Huckleberry" thing, and the I have a lot of friends. I don't.
Oh yeah. That's we were watching it, and the guy says, "I have a lot of friends," and I said, "I don't." And then he said, "I don't," and I was like, "Yes," but that's oh man, and that's
it's all those little things I think that were a significantly better part of the movie than the extreme violence that happens in very short periods of time.
Well, and the extreme violence and the sort of bloated like actual plot.
Yeah, it wasn't all bad. I agree. Like there's some good one-liners, a few good moments, character moments.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it got a lot of criticism, but I enjoyed the movie. It was.
I like when Wyatt says, "Well, I guess you better swear me in" when the cowboys start rolling in. Like,
yeah, that was good.
He signs up for it.
I really like.
I don't know.
Yeah, I liked.
I liked it. I liked it more the first time I watched it. The rewatch for this, I'm like, yeah, okay.
I could see that. Yeah,
that's interesting because I feel like I would like it better on a second viewing, but I have only seen it once.
But if you've already seen all the good lines, then.
Well, I feel like I could be looking. Parts. I could see myself, and this is where I could say like this could be somebody's favorite movie. Like you're just looking for those quotable lines because it seems very quotable.
But like I was kind of looking forward to some of these because I knew about them, but I didn't know where they were in the movie. So
I will say the "I'll be your Huckleberry" line was kind of that was one of those lines that it's like that "You Talking to Me" in Taxi Driver, where like you hear it quoted all the time and people like kind of put about 10 times as much energy into it.
Right. And it's not even like a big line in the movie generally. It's just like some weird thing that's popped up.
And I also like people it's kind of memeified and does it like people have told me that they will be my Huckleberry. And
it kind of like popped back into popular culture like 2 years ago, right?
And I
just as fast.
I do not think that they were talking about murdering me most of the time. Most of the time they were talking about participating in a Star Wars card tournament.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure it's about finding a match for what you're looking for more than anything. Right. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. That's how it's like. So seeing the context that it was used actually in the film was kind of interesting. Yeah, that I have a lot. I do think that I have a lot of friends. I don't is that really like that really resonated with me because like that I've kind of been on both sides of that where I have friends that I know that they don't have a lot of friends and so they're going to be incredibly loyal and they're going to they're always going to be there. And then I've also kind of been on the other side where where somebody is kind to me and so I would take a bullet for them, metaphorically speaking, not literally. But in this case, obviously, literally. Yeah, like I think.
I like when he walks over. He's like, "Barber, proceed, sir." Right after this, like
right back
moment.
to right, like, totally comfortable with the blade right next to his throat at that point.
Mm-hmm. I liked the drunk guy that kept kept just barely surviving.
I think that was supposed to be Ike Clanston, who was like a ringleader or something like that.
Like I think he famous, but, yeah. I kind of liked him like giving surrendering constantly and begging for his life and
then shooting them in the back.
Yeah. he just couldn't learn his lesson.
No, they let him go like twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that was another example of like all the people looking the same because I thought that when the horse was dragging the guy, when the horse was dragging the guy to town to say, meet Ringo at 7 p.m. and all that stuff, I thought that they had killed the drunk guy, but apparently not.
Yeah, I don't think they show them actually killing Clanston. They show him like throwing his thing down and then him just riding away, and they shoot, and then you never see him fall down.
Yeah.
Oh well.
But I'm trying to think what and I mean we already talked about. There's a moment where you see some women protesting for equal pay, and I have a feeling that was I have a feeling that was put in there like as a as one of those things that they put in movies that's like that speaks to the time that the film was made. So like they were, it was kind of in there to remind you that women have been fighting for equal pay for for 100 years or more. Fortunately, now that's not a problem at all. We completely solved sexism.
Completely, 100%.
Sarcasm.
Insert sarcasm, please. I'm being sarcastic, please. There are a few other like funny things that I've seen people post about the movie. Like they always have the 2-shot shotguns, and then they fire like 2 shots in the air like multiple times. Like probably shouldn't fire 50% of your ammo when walking into a crowd, like just up in the air as a warning. Or like things like in the scene where it's raining, it's only raining within 10 feet of Kurt Russell. If you look in the background, it's just bone dry.
Which is what it would be like if it was a film from the 70s. Yeah. I think there was a scene where you kind of saw town from far away, and it kind of looked like the fake town from Blazing Saddles. Like, yeah, a lot of the, I don't know. I think some of that like was intentionally to look as a throwback to the style of the classic Westerns. I'm willing to give the film credit there.
And I know you don't care about historically, but historically there wouldn't have been a lot of actual buildings. It would have been all tents because it was just a mining settlement. It wasn't even like big. I think that they built the theater after the incident and everything like that. But also it was entirely shot in Arizona, which I thought was neat because that's a lot greener than I think of when I think Arizona.
The other thing I noticed is when they're going to the showdown, for the misdemeanor for gun carrying.
Yep.
They walk past a building that is on fire, that is very much on fire.
I also noticed that,
and I'm like,
what? When did that get on?
Why
fire?
Is that? They weren't the ones that said it. It's just on fire. I don't know why it's on fire. They don't explain it. I feel like that might be a better problem to deal with right now.
Yeah. Definitely. Right. That was my thought.
Tombstone, why was the building on fire? It's not explained how the building caught fire. Oh, my phone answered me because I said it out loud. The burning building was likely included in a scene to symbolize a number of What? Really? Come on. That's
they just added it because it happened a lot in that period.
I was hoping I'd get an answer like, oh, there's a deleted scene where it got set on fire and they just cut it,
or they accidentally started burning it down during the take and they just went with it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I figured it was just because the Cowboys are causing crazy havoc.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. But at the same time, like, it adds tension. It doesn't really matter how it starts. It's fire in the background is always a very symbolic.
And it was a very big fire. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that building was done. One guy threw a bucket on it. It's like, no, don't bother.
Like if they'd I don't know, if they'd have shown like the the Cowboys riding up to the place and one of them shoots a hay bale or something and it sparks a little bit of a fire. Like, I think that would have maybe made more sense. But like that thing was like, that was so on fire that like, I feel like you would need to deal with it or else you would be in danger of the entire town burning down. It was a lot of fire in a very dry environment, but maybe they didn't know how fire worked back then. I don't know. But yeah, Another. So the only reason that Bill Paxton needed to be in the movie was his death. His last words, where he says, "You remember what I said about that, about the light when you're there's no light," or something like that.
Right.
That was a cool moment. Like that was a very I don't know. It seemed very real. Seemed very like something. I don't know. This movie just had a bunch of moments that I really dug. And yeah, I really do think if it wasn't for if the and I mean even the final sequence of Wyatt killing everybody, it just barely missed the mark for me. I think that if he had gone down in a blaze of glory, or if he had or not a blaze of glory, or a blaze of getting killed, or if he'd you know, like
You just wanted some different resolution other than going to Christmas in somewhere out east.
Right. Exactly.
It just feels like a whole different time and place, and it's not quite right for the end.
Also, like, I mean, I understand that it probably did exist, but if you're out in that old west and you're talking about room service, like, did they call it room service in the 1800s?
It felt a little anachronistic.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably get them to bring you breakfast, but did they have a term for that? I don't know.
Like maybe even if it was like in the big city, if it was like you wanted the big city, like I feel like room service is associated with staying in a big hotel in a big city.
They were in the Grand Hotel. The only hotel, but still the Grand Hotel.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just like when she says what do you want with your life? When he says, what do you want out of your life? And she says room service. And she means that she wants to be traveling. It just, it feels a little anachronistic, and I don't know anything about history, but it just felt weird. There was just, but and her performance wasn't bad. It just, I think there's probably a way they could have done that love story better. Made his first wife, like, just give her a drug overdose earlier. I probably would have a problem with that too, but I don't know. Because his first wife just kind of disappears when they leave town.
Yeah.
And I guess
they make a big deal about him being the oak or whatever, or like failing to kind of live up to his own expectations, and then it just ceases to be for another third of the movie until the very end.
And then did Virgil leave because he no longer. He thought he was no longer capable because he didn't have his arm anymore?
I mean, they fucked up his arm. Yeah, I mean, he couldn't even use it, but yeah, I mean,
like, it just
probably just because in real life he backed out. I mean, he had to go recover, and so he was out for that reason. Just one of those things. So. Like, it kind of at least was supposed to. Someone said that it happened that way, whether it happened or not, and that that's how they had to.
It just seemed
they
like
decided to be accurate enough to stick with it.
It seemed like I wish that they would have followed up with his character a little bit more, instead of just making the next 30 minutes of the film just following Wyatt, because it seemed like I was kind of invested in him as a character, and then he was just kind of gone, and they didn't even if they'd had a scene where I don't know how they would have done it and still had the surprise of him planning it, but like if they'd have had a scene where he says, okay, I'm going to take them all out from here. And then Virgil says, I'm with you. And he says, no, you can't, because your arm or whatever.
Right. It might have been nice for them to exchange a word more than just a glance before the train drives away.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been the opportunity. After he's already shot the one guy and arrested the other.
Yeah. But, or even if he said, to keep them safe or something,
Yeah,
get them out, and I don't know.
Because I mean, what's the last thing that they say to each other? Just I don't want to see you right now.
Like literally, Like literally, like the one person who has an exit from the film is the one that comes back, because I really liked when what's her name left and Doc Holliday says, and then she walked out, and with that she walked out of our lives.
Yeah, and then she came back. Yeah,
and then she came back. Like I don't know, it was because also that's a really good line. Like he had so many good lines.
Yeah, I think he was a real star of the movie. Although
yeah, he definitely had the standout performance. I think this was definitely a film where there was some dialogue, and where some of the dialogue and a lot of the performances kind of outpaced the overall. Like I don't know, did it win any awards? Like it kind of feels like
it feels like it might have been nominated for some stuff. I don't know. Let me see.
I closed it. I'm opening it again.
Let's see. It was nominated for an MTV Movie Awards. Let's see.
Two of them.
1990. Yeah, I just see the two.
For Best Male Performance and Most Desirable Male.
Both Val Kilmer.
That's all I'm seeing here on IMDb, yeah.
That seems about right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Val Kilmer could have gotten in a different year, he could have gotten a Best Supporting Actor nomination.
I mean, let me see what other movies came out this year. 1993 movies. I mean, we got Gettysburg, Schindler's List.
Oh,
all right, he's screwed. That's not happening. They're not getting anything.
Unforgiven was the
Nightmare Before Christmas. We're back.
Oh no, it's 92. God, I hate that. Wait, I hate that when you put the year for the nominees, you have to put the next year. Okay, so yeah, Schindler's List, Remains of the Day, In the Name of the Father, The Piano, and The Fugitive were the Best Picture nominees that year.
I love that
Rudy
movie.
came out that year. Demolition Man.
Maybe I should pick The Fugitive.
But I don't know. I just like, I don't know. I liked he had a memorable performance, and then he was Batman a few years later. So
Jurassic Park. Oh yeah. That might have come out slightly in the category before that. Robin Hood Men in Tights. I just searched for year. I didn't search for what time of year.
All right. So I think we've pounded this thing into the ground. We've shot a bunch of shotguns at it or something.
We fired in its general direction wildly, and someone has fallen over.
Yeah. We accidentally shot its sheriff, or its that guy was the sheriff, right? I did think it was interesting that he was like confiscating people's guns. I always thought that. I thought that was real interesting.
Yeah,
him taking.
I mean, he was gonna take him into the drunk tank. He just wanted to hand over the guns.
Uh-huh.
And I know you're tired of this, but historically, that was ruled as an accidental homicide, and even the ERPs testified that it looked like an accident.
I thought it looked like an accident.
Yeah.
Where he pressed the gun to his chest and then fired.
Well, I think he was goofing.
He was drunk and he hooked it with his finger. I think he's just
I think he was goofing around with it, and in a way that was very not safe. That's why you're not supposed to play with guns. Yeah. But I don't think that he intentionally shot the sheriff.
Yeah, that marshal was actually only 30, but I guess that actor is some famous old guy from the previous era of westerns.
Look, that was a hard 30.
It's a very, very hard 30. All right.
So what are we watching next month, Ian?
Well, last time I picked Cool Hand Luke, and this time I think that movie was too recent. So I'm going back further. No. Honestly, I was looking over our list and I noticed we haven't done a single Alfred Hitchcock movie, so I'm going to pick a Hitchcock film. I'm going to go with Rear Window, probably my favorite.
Rear Window. Ooh.
I think Hitchcock films is one of those things that I've never intentionally gone out and watched, and I'm not sure I've seen a single one.
Well, you're in for a treat. Rear Window is a fantastic piece of film.
So for the record, Wednesday, October 16th at 7:30, Rear Window is playing at the Gateway Film Center. So,
Ooh,
so we should record after that. Looks like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that week it is.
nice.
All right, well, we'll see what we think of Rear Window next time on the KendallCast Movie Roundtable. This podcast is a production of the KendallCast Podcast Network. You can support the show for just $2 a month at patreon.com/KendallCast or make a direct donation through the PayPal link at kendallcast.ninja. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps.